how is it with the funding and
Funding.
What is the word? I have used also dust and like wool or this like wool fluff.
So hello.
Hi.
Today the visit is in the studio of Lau Rämö, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming here. It's nice to have you.
You're a visual artist, or a photographer? Or?
Yeah, I consider myself as visual artist and media artist, kind of both. In a way, I feel like video is also somehow like image making, but still like not the same thing. But I make photography and video both, so maybe more like a lens-based artist would be
true,
like.
Yes, that is that term.
Yeah.
Are you from Helsinki, or is it just you live here now?
Yeah, I'm from here. I've been living here most of my life.
How did you end up in this position now?
Well, it wasn't so straightforward. I guess from like early on, I have been quite interested of like seeing all these like little details around me and having a camera with me, and I was always the one with like camera and like observer kind of. So I feel like that's like kind of part of me as who I am, and just this like curiosity to things around me, and also kind of remembering like all these things and capturing. So yeah, I guess it started just like as this like hobby, and also like teasing my friends of always being with the camera and like and then later on I took a course on film photography and then got more excited about it. But then there was a period of time that I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so it kind of came a bit later on, the art part.
It's not like after high school you went to art school or whatever?
No, not straight away. I was a bit confused at what do I want to do with life, and also like getting these mixed messages from, because my family was not very like encouraging to art and more like that get a proper profession, but I was also having a bit this like existential teenage like this resistance to it, that like no, I will do exactly that I was interested in like philosophy and like writing and aesthetics, but I didn't get to university. It was really hard with my like how I wrote in the final exams in high school, because I didn't get like enough good grades that it would be that easy to get in the first row. So then I just kept trying, and then I realized.
Did you apply for philosophy?
Apply to like philosophy, and aesthetics, and then I came up with that I want to also apply to art schools, and but that was also very hard. So then I studied 1 year in this photojournalism school, like kansanopisto kind of, and then from that I kind of realized that maybe this is my thing to work with cameras. But it was a bit like this kind of path, and then I was working in like service jobs. I was selling ice cream for like 4 years and making these characters of like bears and for children, and and kind of like figuring it out that okay, what is my like career, or like what is something.
I think it's very natural for a young person to not know what they want to do. I mean, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
definitely.
There is so much pressure somehow in a very like young age to know, and
But then you went towards the art, and
yes,
we first met in Aalto when I was taking some courses in the photography masters there. But back then, I don't remember that you were doing videos.
No, it only came like later on. I kind of started to struggle with photography at some point, and this like some kind of stillness of it. I mean, of course, it's still, but yeah.
That is really interesting that you say, because I've spoken with other people, and it seems that, well, I have to start some statistics on that, I guess, to be able to put claims like this. But like that, there are people who come from photography or did photography, and then they have some sort of an issue with it. That it feels like it's not enough.
Yeah, I feel like it's quite common somehow. I don't know, I guess for some people they kind of grow out of it and then go back to photography and then like, I don't know, just go through some kind of process of like what is photography and why is it meaningful for them and not some other form of art. But yeah, I guess for me, I more like drifted towards moving image, or I had this like feeling that it could be something more for me, but I'm also doing photography every now and then, and yeah.
No, I hear you definitely. I love video as well, and probably half of the things I do are somewhat video related.
Yeah, I have seen.
This is where you came from, the photography. What are you doing right now?
Right now I'm focusing mostly on stop motion animation and working with different materials, and yeah, and I'm doing like most of it by myself, like from the collecting some materials, or I like to use some some trash materials and also like some like soft and things that I find in the nature, and yeah, a bit like mix. So yeah, and then I shoot and then I edit and I record sounds as well. And sometimes I work with a sound designer and musician to make music to my works, but otherwise it's pretty like I'm just doing everything by myself.
That's a huge amount of work, I have to say. Like animation, generally, whatever kind of animation.
Yeah, it's slow. And like, yeah, gladly now I have a working grant for a year, so I'm able to like finish a few projects and start a new one. But then again, after that, I have to see like how is it with the funding and
funding.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I did try to a little bit research your work before we met today, and it wasn't easy since your website is not working at the moment.
Yeah, it's in flux at the moment.
Yeah, but it was interesting to see that you are using a lot of those like little like balls of thread, or look like dust.
Yeah, I have used also dust and like wool, or this like wool fluff.
Fluff, yes.
Yeah. And
what drew
I'm somehow
you to
fond
that?
of very like soft things to hold in my hands, and also like just because it's like I'm curious how it will like shape up to, and it's also a little bit difficult to keep it in control, and a bit like surprises happen. But yeah, that's kind of part of the process.
From photography to textile, it's a long way.
It is.
When did you start working with that?
I think I have had often this interest in some kind of like handmade things, and I have been like needle felting a bit when you do like with wool without the water, but just like with needle make different kinds of shapes.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of my hobby sometimes, and making some kind of creatures out of it. So I think it was just this familiar material, and I like small things, and these threads are very small and kind of delicate. But I think these materials also like help to in a way focus on something, because I feel like my mind gets like a bit like all over the place if I don't have some kind of thing to focus on, or like that if I, for example, choose certain materials and then I work with them and a theme, then it's like okay, keeps it together somehow.
So what other materials are something that you enjoy working with?
Well, sometimes some things from the nature, like pine needles. I was doing this one video work where I collected trash from the like sea trash, basically like plastic particles from the beaches in like East Helsinki. So I used that as part of the like material world of the piece as well, and it was like partly shot also on those beaches. And then I used them as kind of characters also, these trash particles, but like combined with some other materials as well. So, yeah.
Is there humor in your work?
Yes, there is humor and kind of some kind of silly aspect. I feel like there is like both. There is this kind of silliness or lightness, but also some kind of like contemplative part or like wider themes.
So one of those themes is something connected to the environment, I assume?
Yeah, and I think mostly they revolve around like just like living and being a creature and sharing that experience, and kind of like more from the point of view of like coexistence and yeah.
What other themes are there?
Before I was also like quite interested of I would say like objects, but that's maybe more for the like my photography. I had this like fascination to different kind of like tossed away or a bit like withered or used or lost objects, and then I used them in like several of my projects, and now I'm also trying to incorporate them to my video work as part of like, well, in this what we can see here is like a tiny archive which is kind of starting to grow, and I'm using it as part of one stop motion animation which I'm making at the moment of which is also about like shared existence as living creatures, and it's from the point of view of this human-like creature, which I made these like props, these like kind of hands that browse different kinds of things and memories and different kinds of animals and bugs from the books and like yeah. So
I imagine
those kind of things.
I imagine that that making these kinds of props is a very pleasurable thing to do.
It is. It's also very hard because I'm not like an expert in any of like this. I'm just like also learning and like experimenting, which is of course like fun, but also like there comes surprises and it's not so like straightforward, I guess. But yeah, it's been fun to start making this like hands and other things.
Yeah, I see there's something with dice also over there.
Yeah. They represent years.
Years?
Yes, or like some of these things have some kind of like symbolic meanings which may not open to everyone, but for me they are meaningful, and this year is like the year of my birth, like 1989. So that's kind of start of one timeline in a way. So this work is also about like time and life. And
how do you read 1989?
like there's like on the first kind of
one.
This kind of row is 1 and 9 and 8 and 9. I mean, it's just like for me it's meaningful, but yeah. And there is also like this 6, which I'm thinking in my head that it's like the 6th extinction, which right now we are kind of living the time.
The mass extinction of species, yes.
Yeah, so yeah, these like little meanings.
Do you write them down in the description of the work if you exhibit it somewhere, or are they just hidden there?
Right now they are just hidden, but I'll have to see like what I want to share. Of course, it's
how much do you want to show? That's very those pieces like are very interesting, you know, for a viewer to find out what. Of course, in the same time, if you tell them this is that, then you take their chance to see something else that they might have seen otherwise. But so it's a decision there. I guess.
That is true. Also,
do you do some form of activism about the environmental issues, or is it just through your art that you discuss these things?
It's mostly just my art. I have been doing some little tasks for one campaign, and in the past I was doing some photography, like volunteer type of work for climate like associations, or is it like järjestö? What is the word?
Organizations?
Organizations, but not right now so much. I try to focus it more in my art, and maybe doing more in the future also otherwise, or I'm hoping.
How do you sustain your practice otherwise? You said now that you have a grant, but like when you didn't, what did you do?
Well, that's a good question. I guess I was struggling when I didn't have a grant, but I was doing like a little bit of work, and or if I managed to get like a project grant for an exhibition, for example, then I did that, and then I had a break, and you know, like a little bit at a time. But now, like fortunately, I've had 2 working grants almost in a row, which is like kind of, I'm very grateful for having the opportunity. So I'm just now trying to make as much as possible during this time that it's possible. But yeah, before that I think I was still studying my master's until 2020, and yeah, doing some like freelancer work and a little bit of like editing and some other things to combine that.
Do you somehow involve your friends or family in your art?
A little bit, yeah. I would wish to do actually more things together in the future, because now I've been more like doing things by myself. But my partner, Minki, for example, who is also an artist, has been helping me sometimes with like, for example, with these hands that I'm making this piece at the moment, that they have been holding the other hand while I'm holding the other hand, because it's like very helpful to have some kind of assistance when making some very like detailed work. So yeah, that kind of things, maybe more. And yeah,
especially in this type of animation, there's a lot of, or either you need to come up with some systems to hold stuff.
Yeah, and I don't have like a professional animation studio with these like rigs and everything, so it's just me and my hands and some tape and some surfaces. Yeah.
Have you? You said you worked with a musician or sound person for your works. Have you done like other collaborations with other artists somehow?
Well, yeah, some, but more in form of like group exhibitions. So not so much like I have done some like also these like small publications like zines. So that I do sometimes with like some friends and colleagues.
You say you don't want to work on your own the whole time.
Well, I would prefer to work like at least some parts of the video making, especially with someone or some people. Yeah, I feel like it's more meaningful. But there is some things that I like to do alone, and I also enjoy this kind of, some kind of like solitude time, or I think it's also important.
Yeah, I mean, one doesn't exclude the other, of course, you can do both. Is it important for you to generally have other people around, sort of a community?
Well, in a way, yeah. I feel like right now it doesn't exist so much, or many of my friends are artists or creative in a way or another, so that's very nice, but I feel like we are not talking so much about our works with each other. We are just talking about other things, so I feel like it's missing at the moment from my life, but it would be nice to have more like some kind of feeling of community. I think after school it's been a bit like a puzzle to find that.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well, because there you kind of have it forced, the community, when you have classes with other people, but then afterwards.
Yeah, and I think you don't like realize it so much like before you're like on your own.
Of course, how would you know? It hasn't happened to you yet.
Yeah.
Well, that's partly why I'm doing this. I hope to be able to, you know, when you share the story of somebody else could relate to that and maybe see part of their struggles or issues or interests in another person. Yeah,
I think that's very needed.
Would it be good if there would be some way to do it also in person, not just online? Yeah,
and I think generally just this like getting feedback and being seen is very important. So yeah, in a way or another, it would be very nice to have more this like sharing and telling about your work and processes, and not just the ready works and like kind of having to be a ready person and ready artist and just in form of like portfolio, but more like, I mean, the interesting things are, I think, in the process and what makes everyone excited and yeah.
My previous guest, Emma Ronholm, she was saying that with her friends they do that. It was her, right? That she said. Now I'm thinking if I confuse the people anyway, but that they are doing this. Maybe it wasn't her. Somebody of my guests were saying that they're doing this like a feedback sessions with sessions with their friends, just like go to your friend's studio and talk about their work there, and they do the same for you and stuff.
That sounds really nice.
That would be
yeah.
nice. But of course, this kind of a thing you can't like organize too formally. It just, I guess, has to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible to also organize and just be like more active about it. I think, I don't know, people tend to be a bit like busy in their projects, so I feel like sometimes it feels like there is not so much space for this kind of in between, that you're not on this just this like a leisure time, and you're not like working, but more like sharing about the work, and yeah. But there could be more of that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about the studio a bit later, but you are here with other artists, right? I mean, it's a whole building. It's artist studios.
Yeah. It's kind of full of life here, and there's also musicians playing in the evenings, and yeah, there's a lot of things happening. Do people gather sometimes? At the moment, not so much, but sometimes there's been some events there, at least in the other like building or the building next to this. Yeah. Because
I guess it would be easier to do something like that if
that
people are close by.
Yeah, and I think it's really inspiring to be in a place that there is happening a lot of things, and not just be like, I don't know, only at home, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. No doubt about that. Have you ever found yourself in a creative block when you can't seem to?
Yeah.
How do you get through that?
I think when I started working more like professionally, I think, or when I had my first working grant, I think the first like at least half a year went to just this like learning how to work actually, and what are my routines like, and kind of, I don't know, then I felt very stuck for some reason, even though I had the ideas what I want to do, but I was like kind of still searching for it, like
was there any pressure because you got a grant and now you have to really do?
I think part of it was that, that there is this, there's this time and you need to do like everything now, and like after that you don't know if you're not gonna have any money after that, so yeah. But I don't remember how I got through it. I think it was also like valuable part, because that's something that I don't think they teach in art schools, this kind of production skills and sitting down and making plans and all this thing, like what do you have to do and what like do you have to apply and how, and also sticking like to your plan and being persistent, and there's so many things that I didn't like kind of realize before I was like in it, and yeah.
I mean, I don't know in Kuva how they teach things. Maybe they have something there, but it seems very difficult to come up with one like a box of how things need to be done, because people have so different practices. And
yeah, exactly. For the long run, it would be sustainable to have like a good like way of doing things, and also that way of that you're not burning out, and you also remember to rest and take it slowly. So yeah.
So do you now have a way to do things?
No, but I think a little bit more than before, and also that I don't get burned out so easily, and I have also like kind of learned to know myself better, and that I don't have to achieve in a certain like way, or like in a certain schedule, that I can, because I'm a bit slow person, and I like process things a bit slowly, or I just need time. So I feel like that's also part of my artistic practice, that I also do it kind of slowly and try to be present in it, and trying to not go too much on this kind of capitalist mindset of having to just produce and fast and yeah.
Now it's starting to make more sense why you went towards the stop motion animation.
In a way, I mean, it's funny because it is, yeah, it's also like a lot of work. I mean, it's, yeah, but it's also allows to just be there with your body in this moment and like, yeah, be somehow present.
Do you have some routines in your process?
I have some, but I feel like they are not the same always. Few years ago, I was trying to like produce works in a way that kind of short films are produced in a way. Like first making this pre-production and script and plans and then shooting and then editing. But then I realized that it's not really like for me. So right now I've been just doing everything a bit like mixed, that I plan something and I have a loose script or like a voiceover script or something, then I shoot, then I edit, and then I edit like while I'm shooting and you know, add some things to the story, and I feel like it fits me much better as a person, and like, yeah, I like to see it evolving there. Yeah.
So you do allow some sort of deviation from the plan during the process?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a lot of it actually. Yeah.
Do you come every day to work?
Not every day. Sometimes I work from home also.
Well, yeah, I guess if you have to edit, you don't have to be here.
Yeah.
How big is for you the role of social media for your practice? I mean, you're pretty active on Instagram, I think.
I'm somewhat, or I try to be more active now, because I feel like it helps to find contacts and be kind of, or just feel seen, I guess. Because many things I do, they are like developing slowly. So it can be sometimes a bit like frustrating if there is like no audience or nobody kind of seeing what I'm doing. So it's very nice to share some glimpses, and yeah. So I guess it's in growing like part of my practice.
Would you give some sort of an advice for somebody who is more struggling with it, and like how to do that?
I don't know if I'm the right person, because I'm also struggling with it, and I'm struggling with smartphone anyway, because it's taking so much of my attention, and this kind of addiction to like be doing something all the time. I feel like it doesn't do good for my nervous system. So it's always this kind of a bit conflicted feeling to have to be active or try to have some kind of like consistency there. I'm not posting like every day, but like I try to post maybe at least once a week, and sometimes when I'm doing something, and yeah, but yeah, it's not. Yeah, I don't know if I have any advices to give. Maybe like planning a bit.
What has worked for you?
Yeah, well, now I'm thinking that maybe like planning a bit ahead is something nice. That if anyways you enjoy doing something like a bit slower, for example, like collecting some images, for example, during a week, or putting some words on some document, that like writing some short thing, and then kind of booking a time for it, like that, okay, now I post this. That might be nicer than like having to be all the time on the phone and kind of doing it on the row, because I think that's more stressful to if you're like every day doing it, and like scheduled posts, I guess.
Yeah,
that's possible, but yeah.
Yeah, I myself am trying to do stuff there as well, but I don't think I'm posting as much, like one thing a week. I think I'm doing it more rarely.
Yeah, but that's fine also. I mean
everything's fine in the end.
Yeah. I mean,
nobody's gonna come and stick a finger in your face, like, why don't you do that?
Of course. It's also fine to not be in social media at all. Maybe someday. But right now I feel like there is some benefits to it. And being in contact with people and seeing what they're doing, mostly.
Yeah.
But yeah, the algorithm is a bit tricky. I feel like I still don't understand it totally that how much do you have to post and in what way to be like more seen, because many people get hidden and many artists get kind of are a bit like invisible there because of the algorithm is what it is.
Well, I think people are constantly trying to figure that out, and when they manage to figure something out, then the algorithm changes,
and that's frustrating.
Yeah, it's another whole other work in itself just to keep up with the showing what you do.
Yeah, it would be so nice to have money to like hire someone to do that for you, but I don't know who has that.
Does your work go more into like exhibition type of setting, or is it like a more of a screening, like festivals for arts?
It's well, more exhibitions, but I am thinking of like broadening more towards festivals, or I'm interested that it would be like nice to kind of go a bit more in that direction, because just to get like seen more, or to get more like audience to the works. So yeah, but let's see about my upcoming and future works, that of course you have to kind of plan towards it a bit, that what kind of setting is like suitable for which work. Is it like film festival or like animation festival, or is it more like just art or installation? But
yeah, at some point I was thinking also about this like festival screening things, but I think my work is not for that. It's just better in an exhibition, because I always thought about it as being in an exhibition.
Yeah, it affects.
Yeah, I feel like there is a little bit difference of how you do the work. Do you have like a storyline usually, or is it more of an experiential thing?
I have both, I think. Or I have some kind of like a loose story often, or at least like themes, and then within that I improvise a lot.
Oh yeah, I forgot to ask you, like, do you have some upcoming event? Or
yes, I have. Well, in Helsinki, I have a solo exhibition coming up in Huuto Gallery in June. So
in June. Oh,
yeah,
this
so
is
welcome there.
a bit of an early
in a way,
reminder of that. Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Which June?
I can't remember the beginning date, but it was like kind of mid-month. Maybe.
I can also write it afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it gonna be video work there?
Yeah, it's gonna be a video work, like single channel projection.
In their
it's
video
in the
space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let me know. I want to come and see it.
Yeah.
So these are the hands for.
These are the hands
upcoming video.
Yeah, for a work that I'm making at the moment, which is called Anima. So this person is browsing different things and and going through different kinds of creatures and memories.
Is it gonna have a face or just the hands?
No, I think it's just the hands. So this is everything.
They look a little bit like birds.
They do.
Feet. Oh, you can. Oh.
Yeah, you can like make.
They can hold things.
Kind of.
But there is another hand here.
Yes.
There's a thing with the hand.
Yes, it also makes a sound. I like hands. As you can see. It's here to entertain and scratch if there's a need.
There is an interesting collection of dogs there.
Yeah, it's a collection by me and Tuisku. Also, I found this like tiny hat from a thrift store. It's not important, but
Do you go to thrift stores a lot?
Yes, I do. I love them. It's also a big source of inspiration, actually.
Do you yourself go to exhibitions and openings?
A little bit. Right now I haven't been in many openings for some reason, but I've also been sick in flu and just a lot at home.
Well, that's a legitimate reason.
Yeah, winter time is a bit like this hermit time often for me.
Winter time, it's April. It should not be winter time
Well,
anymore.
it shouldn't. But
well, when you did go, where would you go usually?
I think it depends on the exhibition, but I am often interested in some maybe multidisciplinary kind of galleries, or I think Oksasenkatu 11 is like that. I'm often following what they have, and some other places. I also maybe I prefer more like artist-run spaces, but also a bit depending on the contents.
Are there some artist-specific names that you like their work and follow?
Well, there are many artists that I follow, but let me think.
Some that have impacted you more than others, maybe?
I think, well, one that comes to my mind is this Anna Estariola, if you know her work, and especially maybe this kind of, maybe like evocative tendencies, or like, I think as experiences they have been also like quite impacting or kind of touching, and also there is like humor aspect.
And also like a mixture between video and some object.
Exactly. I think it's interesting how she uses different mediums and quite like boldly, and has this kind of quite own kind of style, and a bit weird. That's something. And then I follow Anni Puolakka's works, and I like these videos. Well, one recent quite like inspiring maybe art experience was this Camille Auer's bird-related works, that she's making these queer bird walks, and then there was this performance called Rough Knowledge. And it's about diversity, and especially in birds, but this kind of like biased views that we as humans have, and it also like reflecting to the animal kingdom, and about this like heteronormativity, and also about gender, and trying to see birds as just like, I don't know, with a bit like broader perspective kind of, and also kind of imagining how it is like to be a bird. I have started to watch birds recently, so I'm into bird watching at the moment, so that's why maybe it was so like inspiring.
Did you experience Pasi Autio's bird disco?
No, but I read about it. It sounded very like something like I could have been part of.
Yeah, I hope he does it again sometimes.
Yeah,
in the city
I hope
again,
so too.
that
Yeah,
people can go back to that.
Yeah.
Are there some other places of inspiration for you?
Well, I think nature. I mean, I guess for many artists it's a place of inspiration, but it's also for me. And I think, well, now I'm mostly excited about like bird watching, because I started it as a hobby 1 year ago, and now is a perfect time to go out there and see birds. And it's also very easy because they are everywhere, but it's very like, I think, nice activity, because it's also like quite good for your like senses in a way. Or I feel like when you start to observe some species or something that you're interested in, it feels like this whole world is opening up that you didn't kind of know before, and then you're just seeing them everywhere and recognizing, and I think it keeps you kind of curious. So that's something I recommend also to others.
Start watching things.
Yeah. And if birds are not your thing, then maybe something else is.
Do you go to some further locations to watch the birds, or?
Sometimes. At the moment, mostly just in like East Helsinki. There is many places.
There's a lot of nature around.
Yeah.
So I guess it's not that difficult. Okay, maybe we can talk about the studio space after all.
Yeah.
You're sharing this room that you're in.
Yeah.
This other person. How big is the space?
It's something maybe 12 to 15 square meters, but I don't remember the exact amount.
It seems bigger than 12 somehow. I had one studio that was 13 and it was definitely smaller than this.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So how is it sharing? Do you like sharing the space?
I do like, yeah. I mean, I also enjoy solitude, but right now I feel like I can get both, and we are using this space a bit like different times. And right now my friend and colleague Tuisku Lehto is mostly doing other projects, so I've been here now mostly alone. So it's kind of like, yeah, there's different opportunities, but it's nice to have someone around also and be able to share about your work. And
have you had another studio that you were by yourself or with other people?
I have been once in this like shared desk space, but I feel like that wasn't maybe working for me. It was a bit too like maybe office-like. So it suits me a bit better to have like a little bit quiet space and to be able to like put my stuff around and yeah.
Yeah, especially if you have some physical stuff.
Yeah,
that you
it's a
now
bit
have.
tricky to have only this small table, but
Yeah.
but of course if you work more mainly like on computer, and that's then probably good.
So do you store all of your things here?
Yeah, here in my home. But right now, when I'm making mostly videos, it's just like a bunch of hard drives. So gladly it's not taking so much space, but let's see then after some years how many there will be.
Well, they're getting smaller and smaller, so
Yeah, so
shouldn't be that much of a problem.
that's true.
What's your favorite part of this studio?
Probably the sofa, because I like having like breaks and naps, so to have this possibility is very nice.
I think not in every studio that I've been to, but a very big amount of them have a sofa.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's a thing.
It seems to be a priority then, if it's, yeah.
I mean, it makes sense that you work and then you want to at least get up from your chair and sit somewhere else for a while.
Yeah.
Or if somebody comes to visit.
Yeah, it's nice to have.
You have also quite a lot of plants for the size of the room.
Yeah. Sometimes I kind of forget them here when I'm like away or on a holiday or something.
How long have you been here?
Maybe 5 years. In this studio,
yeah.
You mean? Yeah.
Oh, that's quite a while already.
Yeah. It is now when I said it. That, yeah, true.
How important is for an artist to have a studio, in your opinion?
I think it depends a bit. Like, what do you do? And of course also on the financial aspects, because it's not always possible to have a separate space and pay 2 rents, and yeah. But I think it's very nice to have a space dedicated only for the creative things, because it's a bit like this mindset that when you go there, then you're already in this kind of zone. So yeah, I enjoy that.
Could you do without a studio?
I think somewhat, yeah, but and I think it was easier when I was living alone, because then there is like also like, I don't know, peace and quiet at home. But right now I'm living with my partner and cat, so it's very nice sometimes to also just be alone and not have any like distractions, and yeah, have only that. So I think I need that.
Coming and picking behind your shoulder.
Well, I'm used to that as well, but maybe not always.
Do you think it would affect? I mean, maybe, probably, but how it would affect the work if you would do it at home or if you would do it in a studio?
Maybe it's more about like these boundaries just between like work and not work, that it's harder if there is no studio. I feel like things go a bit like, I don't know, it's harder to stay in this like, okay, now I have free time, and if it's all happening in the same place. But about the quality or like about the work, I'm not sure. Maybe there's just a bit less possibilities to do when it comes to like shooting, for example. I don't know. At least our apartment wouldn't fit even this like this shooting table that I have. So
Yeah,
it's a bit tight.
Have you always had a studio?
No, not always. And also sharing it is of course more like sustainable with money wise. I think.
For sure. For sure. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm also sharing
Yeah.
my studio space, so definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
this talk, and good luck with the exhibition in Huuto.
Thank you.
Follow up on that.
Yes. It was nice to have you here.